The film opens with Eddie attempting suicide from a balcony, as individuals attempt to break into his apartment to harm him. He begins to narrate the events that led to his current predicament. Eddie is a divorced, alcoholic, and unsuccessful writer who struggles with writer's block. He spends weeks or even months unable to write a single word for his new book. The only thing of importance in his life is his girlfriend, Lindy, who is making every effort to assist him. Eddie runs into Vernon, his ex-wife's brother, and invites him to meet him. During their meeting, Eddie expresses that his life is in shambles. Vernon reveals that he works as a consultant for a pharmaceutical company and offers Eddie a new pill, which is an exclusive product from his company and has been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The pill is said to allow a person to use 100% of their brain instead of the typical 20%. The cost of one pill is $100, and out of curiosity, Eddie agrees to try it. As Eddie approached his house, he pondered whether to take the pill. Upon arriving at the door, he made his decision and took it. As he was greeted by the landlady and asked for rent, the pill's effects began to take hold, expanding his thought process and allowing him to notice every detail around him. He struck up a conversation with the landlady and noticed a book in her bag, which he recognized from his time at university 12 years prior. He began discussing law with her after pondering how he could remember such a minor detail. The landlady was impressed with Eddie's knowledge and asked for his help in writing an article, which he completed in just 45 minutes to her satisfaction. And he leaves her and enters his house and wonders how he lives in a place like this, and starts cleaning, tidying, and washing. While he is very clear-minded and able to focus on more than one thing at the same time, he is trying to complete his book, in which he did not write a word, and after a while he falls asleep. He wakes up the next day and is back to normal, unable to do anything as usual. He takes what he wrote and goes to present it to the editor-in-chief at the publishing house, who had lost hope that he would write something. And Eddie offers her to read 2 or 3 pages, but if she does not like it, he will return the payment that he took. As soon as he arrived home, he found the editor-in-chief letting him know that she had read more than 40 pages and that she was still reading, and the book was very impressive. Eddie heads to Vernon's place to acquire a pill that he's heard about. When he arrives, he finds Vernon with a swollen face, who reveals that the pill was created in a lab and that claims of it being legal and safe are false. Despite this, Eddie still requests the pill, explaining that he needs it to finish a book. In exchange for the pill, Vernon asks Eddie to fetch his suit and breakfast, as his condition prevents him from doing so himself. Eddie obliges and goes to get Vernon's things, but upon returning, he finds the door open and the apartment in disarray. Upon entering, he discovers that Vernon has been killed. Eddie quickly calls the police and reports the crime. As he awaits the arrival of the authorities, Eddie decides to search for the pills in Vernon's apartment. Knowing Vernon well, he recalls that Vernon was unable to cook. So he checks the oven, thinking that the pills may be hidden there. Indeed, Eddie is successful in finding pills and money, as well as a list of individuals who purchased pills from Vernon. The police arrive, question him, and take his statement before releasing him. With a new outlook on life, Eddie starts taking care of himself, changes his appearance, and begins taking the pills responsibly, only taking 1 per day. This allows him to finish a book in just 4 days. However, he decides that he wants to pursue something other than writing novels and turns to the stock market. With the help of his friend Kevin, who works at the stock exchange, and a temporary trading firm, Eddie manages to quadruple his money 5 times in just 4 days. Eager for more success, Eddie approaches a bank for a loan but is denied due to a lack of guarantees. He turns to Gennady, a loan shark, who lends him $100,000. With this money, Eddie continues to invest in the stock market and, within a week, has over $2 million in his account. This leads to his rapid rise to fame in the stock market world, and he receives numerous job offers and TV interview requests. The news starts talking about him, and he is able to reconnect with his sweetheart, Lindy. Eddie's stock market success leads him to a meeting with the highly respected and successful Carl, a genius in the industry. However, during their meeting, Eddie realizes that he is being monitored. He explains his unique algorithmic approach to Carl, who then gives him a file on 2 of the biggest energy companies and asks him to evaluate them and give his thoughts. After reviewing the paperwork, Eddie concludes that dominating the energy market would be impossible unless he owned the two companies, or at least the larger one. Carl is impressed by Eddie's analysis, and they plan to meet again to continue their conversation. After his meeting with Carl, Eddie goes for a walk but soon realizes that he's experiencing large gaps in his memory. He continues to walk, and the gaps become more frequent and extensive. Until he has no recollection of the last 18 hours of his life and only remembers spending the night with a woman he met in a motel. The adverse effects of the drug are causing him to struggle without it. He tries to review the energy company's files but is unable to do so successfully. He felt disoriented and had no knowledge of the energy businesses when he met Carl without the pills. After knowing about a model's murder at a hotel and recognizing her as the woman he spent the night with, but unable to remember what happened, he was unable to continue the conversation with Carl. He rushes home to find a message from his ex-wife Melissa, warning him if he took anything from Vernon before he was killed, and asking to meet if necessary. He then tries to reach out to Vernon's clients listed in his notebook, but finds that all of them have died or are critically ill, except for the last person he calls. As he discovers a ringing phone next to him, the man monitoring him answers and attempts to murder him, but he manages to flee. Eddie visits Melissa at a restaurant and finds that her condition has worsened significantly due to the pills. He now realizes that if he had tried to stop taking them, his own condition would have worsened. His focus would have gone, and he would have to gradually reduce the doses or risk the same fate as his predecessor. Melissa says goodbye to him. On his way home, Eddie is confronted by Gennady, who is angry about the delay in his money. Gennady physically assaults Eddie for not meeting the agreed-upon terms, causing Eddie to drop his pills. Gennady then takes the dropped pills and Eddie's money before leaving. Eddie's health then deteriorates rapidly. He goes to Lindy's workplace and asks her to deliver his pills to him, which he had previously concealed in her house. She is forced to leave Eddie at her office and retrieve the pills for him before returning to him. But she discovers she is being followed and attacked by someone, so she rushes away from him and contacts Eddie, telling him what happened. He instructs her to take a pill from what she has with her so that she may escape from him. Lindy hears his words and takes the pill, allowing her to flee her assailant and give the pills to Eddie, restoring him to normal health. Gennady then requests more pills from Eddie, impressed by their effectiveness, and gives him one to get rid of him. Eddie then goes back to Carl to try to persuade him to do business again. After 2 months of taking the pills, Eddie becomes the leader of the largest management institution in history, and he tries to balance his life by cutting back on drugs, quitting drinking, and taking care of his health. He agrees with a lab to produce pills with the same contents and effects to avoid running out. A police investigator arrives to question Eddie about the murder of the fashion model. Someone had recognized him as the last person she saw at the hotel, but he left the department quickly since there were no fingerprints in her room. When he returns to his room, he finds it turned upside down. As a result, he rents an apartment with a safe, cameras, an armored door, and a high-security system. At a board meeting of one of the energy companies that Carl wants to acquire, Eddie is waiting for the company's owner, Mr. Atwood, to sign the merger between the two companies, or more accurately, to transfer the ownership of the company to Carl. He is surprised, however, when Mr. Atwood's wife comes to inform them that her husband is in the hospital because he is very tired. Eddie is further surprised when he finds out that Mr. Atwood's chauffeur is the person who was chasing him and trying to kill him and his girlfriend, Lindy. Eddie realizes that Mr. Todd is in the hospital because he does not have access to the pills and that he is also taking them from Vernon. A summons is issued for him to appear in front of the witness who saw him with the model. He brings Morris, the oldest lawyer in the state, with him. After the parade, he is released, and the witness does not recognize him. He then finds out that Todd has gone into a coma, which puts the deal with Carl on hold until Todd wakes up. But Eddie realizes that the pills have been taken from his jacket. When he returns to his apartment, he deduces from a phone call that Maurice is Atwood's private lawyer, so he suspects Maurice of taking the pills from his jacket pocket. As he hears the door banging, he sees Gennady entering, angry at missing the appointment when the pills were supposed to be delivered again. Gennady wants to kill Eddie, so Eddie decides to kill himself. But at the last minute, he decides to search everywhere for a pill that can save him from Gennady. He fails, so he is forced to attack Gennady, kill him and drink his blood, as the pill is still in him. He succeeds and gets his energy back, allowing him to get rid of Gennady's men. Eddie knows that Mr. Atwood has died, So he tells his driver that Atwood's lawyer, Maurice, stole the pills from him. He wonders how Mr. Atwood died, and speculates that the lawyer wanted the pills for himself and took them, and then the lawyer was killed soon after and the pills were given back to Eddie. After 6 months, he campaigns for office in New York, and his best-selling book is released. And Eddie sees a visitor who is the owner of the Ivy Pharmaceutical Company, which is the largest funder in his election campaign. He is surprised to find out that the visitor is Carl, but Carl starts to threaten him by saying that he knows how the pill works and that Eddie is where he is now because of it. Carl also says that he bought a whole pharmaceutical company as soon as he found out about the pills and that he could stop making them at any time if Eddie didn't do what he wanted. But Eddie tells him in a calm voice that he is not naive and that he is no longer dependent on the pills, even though he got rid of them for good. He advises Carl to be afraid of him as he is smarter than him in some ways and knows things about him that he could use to lock him up. He also reminds Carl that the only thing he had to control him were the pills, which are now gone. Thank you for watching this video, we hope you enjoyed it.